Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you today about the pre-trip inspection form. All your training, all of the manuals will tell you that you have to do a pre-trip inspection every day. On a daily basis, you have to do a pre-trip inspection. That information is not entirely correct. And if you go on that information and you just do a pre-trip once a day, you're probably going to get a fine. You get pulled into the scale house. So we're going to tell you when you need to do a pre-trip and give you the specific information so you don't get a fine, you don't end up working the day for free. We'll be right back with that. Hi there, Rick. Welcome back. Talking to you today about the pre-trip inspection. In the introduction, I said to you that doing a pre-trip inspection daily is not accurate in terms of when you will have to do a pre-trip inspection. Minimum 24 hours you have to do a pre-trip inspection on the piece of equipment that you're driving. As well, anytime that you pick up new equipment, you have to do a pre-trip inspection on that vehicle or that trailer. It is more relevant to semi-trailer drivers because often you're picking up 1, 2, 3, 4 trailers in a day. Every time you pick up a new trailer, you have to do a pre-trip inspection. Bus drivers the same. You get in a different unit, you have to do a pre-trip inspection. The other time that you'll have to do a pre-trip inspection as well is if you're working with another driver, keeping a unit going 24 hours a day and you're working 12 and 12, or 3 drivers working 8, 8, and 8. The other driver comes in, you're going to do a pre-trip inspection because that driver was 10 miles down the road and picked a nail up in one of the tires. The tire's flat. Well, that driver is more interested in getting home than they are in doing a post-trip inspection on that vehicle. So you're going to have to do a quick walk around before you take off. So the 3 times that you do a pre-trip inspection, minimum 24 hours, every time you get new equipment and when you're working off another driver. Pre-trip inspection forms. You have to fill out a pre-trip inspection form every time that you do a pre-trip inspection. I'm going to show you 2 pre-trip inspections today because one of the pre-trip inspection forms is older and has a place on it for the driver's license, and you can see that here. Up here on the ICBC pre-trip inspection form that we use in British Columbia, ICBC is the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. Somehow an insurance company in British Columbia became responsible for driver licensing. I don't know whether there's a conflict of interest there or not. Maybe, maybe not. The point is that we no longer put driver license numbers on any of our legal documents, the logbooks or the pre-trip inspection forms, because of freedom of information legislation and identity theft. So don't put your driver's license number on. However, the unit number for the truck, the date, the time you started the pre-trip, the reason that you put the time for the time that you start the pre-trip is theoretically if you drive out of the yard and the CVSE or the DOT or the MTO officer pulls you over right away and you put the end time on, they say, well, when did you do your pre-trip? You're driving. So put the time that you started the pre-trip inspection on the form. As well, AM, PM, there's 2 boxes. One box is I detected no defects for the safe operation of this vehicle. Check that box if you didn't find anything wrong. If you did find something wrong, I found the following defects with this vehicle. Check that box and then check the appropriate box in the list that you can see here behind me. So for example, if the fire extinguisher wasn't charged, you would check safety equipment and then note in the notes that the fire extinguisher isn't charged. Now, you have to have a fire extinguisher in the vehicle as per the regulations. Therefore, it's a major defect and you have to get it fixed before you go. If you have a clearance light out, that's a minor defect and you can go without having it repaired. So trailers, we have multiple places for more than one trailer. First trailer, second trailer, third trailer, put that in. If there's any defects with the trailer, check the appropriate box. On the top of the ICBC form, you can also see there's a starting odometer. The starting odometer number goes in there as well. Down on the bottom here of the ICBC form is where you sign date and put the time that you started your pre-trip inspection. The bottom of the ICBC form down here, right at the bottom of the form, is for the carrier. If you noted something was wrong with the vehicle that you're driving, the carrier signs off that they repaired it if in fact they did repair it. So the bottom piece here is for the carrier, for the mechanic or whoever is going to fix your vehicle if you noted that there's something wrong. Now, the other form that you see here is a more common form. It's on the bottom of a logbook sheet, and it has a space right above me here for post-trip, pre-trip, the date, the time, the location where you did your pre-trip inspection. So if you're running long haul, you're going to have to put the location where you did it. So for example, if you're in Calgary, Alberta, you're going to put Calgary, comma, AB. AB is short form for Alberta. If you're in Washington, Spokane, Washington, for example, you're going to put Spokane, comma, WA. Now, the other thing that's important to note on your pre-trip inspection is that the location and the time match up with what's on your logbook if you're keeping a logbook. Those two forms have to match up exactly, because if you get pulled into the weigh scale, pulled over by authorities, they're going to look and they're going to make sure that the time on your pre-trip inspection form and the time on your logbook match. As well, on this form you have the location for your home terminal up here in the corner, sign and date for the driver down here at the bottom, and I've talked about this in previous videos on logbooks. The pre-trip inspection is a legal form. If you have a crash and there's a legal investigation, they're going to look at your pre-trip inspection forms and make sure that you did not detect any defects with that vehicle. Or they're going to go back through the pre-trip inspection forms and make sure that the driver didn't note a defect on that vehicle for weeks at length of a time, and the carrier that you were working for didn't fix that. Starting and ending odometer must match what's on your logbook. So the two things that need to match in your logbook: the location and the time, and the starting and ending odometer. Sign and date the document, and then finally on this logbook here you can see above, defects need not be corrected for the safe operation of the vehicle. So if something was fixed, you check the appropriate box, or something doesn't need to be fixed but there was a defect noted. As well, in this form here you can see the unit number for the tractor. So those are two different pre-trip inspection forms. They're essentially the same information, a little bit different. The one on the bottom of the pre-trip inspection form has a location. It also has signature and date, as they both do, but in different locations. In conclusion, when do you do a pre-trip inspection form? Minimum 24 hours every time you pick up new equipment if you're working off another driver. Pre-trip inspection forms are essentially the same. They all have the same information, the time that you start. Check boxes for defects need not be corrected for the safe operation of the vehicle. Note whatever defects there are. Check the box that defects noted. Check the appropriate box. If it's lights, check the light box, make a note in the comment. Sign, date, it is a legal document. Starting and ending odometer and the time on your pre-trip inspection form and the location must match what's on your logbook. On the note of post inspections, in British Columbia, the legislation states that you do not have to do a post-trip inspection unless you noted some sort of defect or found a defect during the course of your day. If you did that, you need to do a post-trip inspection. You can note the post-trip inspection on your pre-trip inspection form, but for the most part it's not required by law in most jurisdictions. However, a lot of times a post-trip inspection can be company policy. If it's company policy, then you'll need to do a post-trip inspection, and on most of these pre-trip inspection forms there is a spot for a post-trip inspection, a checkbox. You can just check that. Finally, if you get some of these old logbook forms, there'll be a place for your driver's license number. You no longer have to put your driver's license number in because of freedom of information legislation and identity theft. So don't put your driver's license on there, because if the thieves get a hold of your license number, it's very easy to steal your identity. Question for my smart drivers: do you do a post-trip? Is it voluntary or is it part of your company policy? I'm Rick with Smart Drive Test. Thanks very much for watching. Remember, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment down in the comment section. All of that helps us out. Thanks very much for watching. If you like what you see here, pop over to my website, get yourself your free weigh scale checklist. The paperwork that you need to take into the scale house or give to authorities if you get pulled over for an inspection is quite extensive. This checklist will help you out to gather all the paperwork that you need to take into the scale house. It's quite extensive, and hopefully with this checklist your stop at the scale house will be nothing more than a minor inconvenience. So pop over to my website, get that checklist. It's free. Just sign up to the website. All of that is really good information for you, especially if you're a new truck driver. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Rick with Smart Drive Test. Remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now. You can see that here, 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 over here. I'm backwards. That's what's screwing me up. I'm backwards on the screen that I can see over there. I should have it over there on my telly and have a screen and a thing and a thing. Okay, serious now.